It's strange how silence can be so loud. Yesterday, my whole world crumbled, and yet the house was so quiet you could hear the refrigerator humming. James, my husband of 15 years, stood in front of me, a smirk stretched across his face as he tossed an envelope onto our coffee table. Divorce papers. He didn't sugarcoat it, he didn't hesitate. He called me a useless wife and said he was moving in with someone younger, hotter, and more ambitious. Her name? Aurora, a fitness influencer he met at F45, the gym he suddenly became obsessed with 8 months ago. I sat there, feeling the weight of 15 years crash down on my chest, and all I could do was smile. Not a happy smile, not even a bitter one. It was the kind of broken smile you give when there's nothing left inside to break. James was so sure I would fall apart. He said it like a fact, like gravity. "You'll be calling me within a week, begging to come back," he said, casually stuffing his fancy new clothes into a suitcase. "I'm actually doing you a favor. It's time you learn how to survive without me." Maybe I should have seen it coming. Maybe the early mornings at the gym, the new colognes, the secretive texts, maybe it was all there, right in front of me. But love makes you blind. Or maybe love makes you want to be blind. 8 months ago, I was cheering him on when he started waking up at 5 a.m. for F45 classes, thinking, good for him, health is important. He even bought me a Peloton for Christmas, though he never let me forget how much it cost or how I barely used it. Then came the new wardrobe from Lululemon, the constant checking of his Apple Watch stats, the late nights at the office, the new cologne that just came as a free sample from Sephora. Then the comments started. "You should put more effort into your appearance. Maybe try that viral TikTok serum. Everyone gets Botox these days, it's not a big deal." I always thought I was enough. I still think I am, but to James I had become disposable. The real tipping point came yesterday afternoon, folding laundry like I had 1,000 times before. I found a receipt from Tiffany & Co. with Tiffany receipt. We drive a 2018 Honda. We shop at Target. A Tiffany receipt didn't fit anywhere into the life I thought we were living. My heart sank deeper when I opened our joint bank account. Withdrawals, steady ones, savings slowly bleeding out for months to an account I didn't recognize. When James walked through the door that night, I didn't even yell. I just held up the receipt. And you know what he did? He laughed. He actually laughed in my face like I was the punchline of some cruel joke. "You're being nosy," he said, disappearing into his office. A minute later, he tossed the divorce papers at me like they were yesterday's mail. "My lawyer says this is a generous offer considering you've contributed basically nothing." 15 years. 15 years of doing his laundry, hosting his clients at awkward dinners, putting my career on hold so he could build his. 15 years of being the steady one while he chased bigger and shinier things. And now? Now, I was being replaced by a 24-year-old influencer with 50,000 Instagram followers and an obsession with protein shakes. When he left, he took the good coffee maker, his iPad, his gaming console, his suits, all the important things. He left me with the cheap coffee maker, a joint account drained nearly dry, and a hollowed-out shell of a marriage. Still, I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just sat there, the envelope still untouched on the table, listening to the door click shut behind him. Maybe deep down, I always knew this day was coming. I just never thought it would feel so empty. I didn't really understand how lost I was until I tried to buy toothpaste. It sounds ridiculous, right? But there I was, standing at the checkout at Target, holding a few basics, toothpaste, shampoo, a box of granola bars, and my debit card got declined. At first, I thought it was a mistake. I even laughed nervously and said, "Let me try again." But it wasn't a mistake. The money, it was just gone. I walked out of the store empty-handed, feeling like I was floating outside my own body. I had always trusted James to handle the big financial stuff. It wasn't because I was incapable. I realize that now. It was because he wanted it that way. Because the less I knew, the easier it was for him to control the narrative. I packed a small bag and drove straight to my sister Vivian's place. No calls to James, no texts, just me, my overnight bag, and a growing pit of dread sitting heavy in my chest. Vivian lives in a tiny 2-bedroom apartment with her toddler, Liam. The guest room was already a makeshift playroom, so I crashed on the couch, surrounded by piles of colorful toys and half-assembled puzzles. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't even comfortable. But it felt safer than that empty house James left me in. That night, Vivian and I stayed up until 2 a.m., sorting through a mountain of bank statements, old receipts, and random paperwork I had grabbed on my way out. Every page felt like another punch to the gut. Tiny withdrawals, mysterious Venmo payments, dinner bills from restaurants I'd never been to. James hadn't just betrayed me with his heart. He'd been siphoning away our future in $200 chunks, week after week, while I clipped coupons and shop sales at Target. Vivian called it financial abuse. I hated that term. It made me feel weak. It made me feel stupid. How did I not see it? And the worst part? There were moments, so many little moments, when he made me feel guilty for even asking. Trust me, he'd say, I'm better with money. You're just bad with numbers. You wouldn't understand. It's complicated. God, I bought it. I bought every word. It's funny. When you spend enough time being gaslighted, you start doubting your own reality. I couldn't even trust my own instincts anymore. Every ding from my phone made my stomach drop. Voicemail after voicemail after voicemail. James's voice shifting through the stages of grief faster than I could process. Anger, mockery, concern, pity. You're going to screw this up without me, one voicemail said. Just call me back. We'll figure this out, another pleaded. I deleted them all. Somewhere deep inside, past all the fear and heartbreak, a small, stubborn part of me whispered, no more. But at the same time, I couldn't ignore the reality. I had no idea how to manage my finances. I had no idea how to live alone. I had no job lined up, no backup plan. For the first time in my adult life, I was completely adrift. I spent those first few days like a ghost in Vivian's apartment, taking up space, but not really living in it. Scrolling mindlessly through TikTok, feeling numb as videos blurred past me. One random video caught my attention, though. A girl explaining how to freeze joint credit cards after a messy breakup. I watched it twice, then a third time. The next morning, with trembling hands, I called the bank and froze our joint account. Baby steps. It was around noon when Vivian found me sitting on the kitchen floor, surrounded by paper statements, a cold cup of coffee by my side. She didn't say anything. She just sat down next to me and started helping me make a list. A real, tangible list. Open a new bank account. Get a divorce lawyer. Find a job, any job. Cancel old subscriptions. Start saving every penny. I looked at the list, and for the first time in days, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I felt grounded. Scared out of my mind, but grounded. That night, as I lay on Vivian's lumpy couch, I stared at the ceiling fan spinning slowly above me and thought, maybe I can do this. Maybe. But then, inevitably, doubt crept in. What if James was right? What if I really wasn't capable of handling life on my own? What if I was useless after all? The fear clung to me like a second skin. I wished I could tell you I had some great epiphany right then, that I sat up, ripped off the fear like a Band-Aid, and transformed overnight. But real life isn't a movie. Real life is lying awake at 3 a.m., heart racing, wondering how the hell you got here, and having no idea how you're going to claw your way out. And yet, somehow beneath all that fear, there was a flicker. Small, barely there, but it was hope. Maybe it was just stubbornness. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was that little voice that had been ignored for too long. But it was there, waiting. It's strange how survival doesn't feel like a big, brave moment. It feels like a series of tiny, almost invisible steps. The first real shift happened one random Tuesday afternoon. I was sitting on Vivian's couch, scrolling through job listings on my cracked old laptop, still wearing pajamas when I saw it, a basic customer service role at a company just 15 minutes away. Nothing fancy, $16 an hour, but it was something. My hand hovered over the apply button for a full minute. The voice in my head, the one that sounded a lot like James, kept whispering, "You're not smart enough. You'll mess it up. You can't even work Netflix without help." But then another voice, one that sounded a little like Vivian's and a little like my own, whispered back, "So what if you do mess up? At least you're trying." I clicked submit. And 2 days later, they called me for an interview. The office was in a shared building downtown, one of those glossy glass front towers where everyone wears business casual and pretends they like their $7 coffees. I borrowed a blouse from Vivian and dug out the least wrinkled pair of slacks I owned. As I waited in the lobby, heart pounding, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window. I looked small, not just physically. Small like someone who had been made to believe she couldn't do big things. But under that, hidden deep, was something else. Something stubborn, something hungry. The interview wasn't perfect. I stumbled over a few questions. I admitted I didn't know much about Excel, but promised to learn, and somehow they hired me. Orientation was scheduled for the following Monday. I should have been celebrating, but life, as usual, had other plans. On my first day, standing in the elevator, clutching my brand new laptop bag, James walked in. Of all the offices, all the companies, all the buildings in the city, of course, Aunt had to be here. Of course, I had to run into him. He wore his important meeting suit, the one he had maxed out our Nordstrom card for. Behind him, trailing awkwardly, was Aurora. The air crackled with tension. James's face shifted from smug to stunned to something almost like fear. He opened his mouth, maybe to say something, maybe to make a joke, but nothing came out. I just smiled. Not the broken smile from the night he left. A new one. Quiet, unbothered, solid. I got off on my floor without looking back. Later that afternoon, when I was helping my new manager organize some client spreadsheets, he offhandedly said, "You're really detail-oriented. That's rare. We're lucky to have you." Detail-oriented, lucky to have me. Words I hadn't heard. Not from James, not in years. That night, sitting at Vivian's kitchen table, I pulled out the mountain of bank statements, credit card records, and screenshots I had been collecting. I organized everything into folders, labeled every shady transaction, cross-referenced every Venmo transfer, not because I wanted revenge, but because for the first time in a long time, I realized I could. James had spent years convincing me I was scatterbrained, incompetent, helpless. But the truth? I had just never been given the chance to prove him wrong. At our first divorce mediation meeting, James strutted in like he was about to win a negotiation. He wasn't ready for what happened next. My lawyer slid across the table 2 thick binders, one for her, one for the mediator, filled with meticulously organized evidence. Restaurant bills, hotel receipts, proof of funds moved without my consent. James's face went pale. He stuttered. He sweated. He tried to explain, but it was too late. For the first time, I wasn't the one scrambling to catch up. He was, and it felt good. Not in a vindictive way, not in a bitter way, just liberating. I wasn't fighting for him to come back. I wasn't fighting to prove I was enough. I was fighting for me. And for the first time since that empty, silent afternoon when he tossed those papers at me, I felt like I might actually win. Healing doesn't come in a single beautiful moment. It comes in awkward, messy little steps. Ones you barely notice until you look back and realize how far you've come. After that first mediation meeting, everything started to shift. James's calls slowed down. The angry voicemails turned desperate, then pitiful, then finally, silent. It was like a radio station that had been blaring static in my ears finally switched off. I moved into a tiny studio apartment across town. Nothing fancy, just a little box with creaky floors, beige walls, and a view of a sad parking lot. But it was mine. I bought a few cheap plants from Home Depot, a secondhand coffee table from Facebook Marketplace, a mattress that came rolled up in a box so tight I had to YouTube how to open it without knocking myself out. I mounted my own TV, figured out how to reset the Wi-Fi when it went down, even learned how to fix a leaky faucet with the help of about a dozen badly lit YouTube tutorials. Every little win felt massive. One day I stood in the middle of my tiny living room, surrounded by my plants, my secondhand furniture, my cheap but perfect throw pillows, and I realized I'm doing it. I'm actually doing it. James wasn't the voice in my head anymore. The only time I even thought about him was when another random Instagram account would pop up in my DMs, usually at 2 a.m., sad drunken messages like, "You'll regret this. You'll never find better than me." I didn't even feel angry anymore. I just blocked him and went back to sleep. The real revenge wasn't screaming back. It wasn't posting receipts online or blasting him on Facebook. The real revenge was living, thriving even. Aurora, by the way, disappeared like a ghost. No dramatic TikToks, no messy closure. Just one day, she packed up her things and moved back to her parents' house in the suburbs. I heard bits and pieces through the grapevine. James trying to explain to his parents why he needed to borrow more money. James showing up at his old workplace only to be turned away at the lobby. James driving a beat-up Honda after the Tesla got repossessed. It should have made me feel vindicated. But mostly, it just made me feel tired. He wasn't my problem anymore. Meanwhile, I was slowly, stubbornly building a life. I got a small raise at work, an extra $5 an hour. Nothing life-changing. But to me, it felt like winning the lottery. I started going to Planet Fitness on Saturdays, not because I wanted a revenge body, but because I liked feeling stronger. I could lift grocery bags without struggling now. I could carry my own damn furniture up a flight of stairs. I even started cooking. Real meals, not just microwaving frozen dinners. HelloFresh became my new obsession. Who knew I actually liked making stir-fry from scratch? There were hard days, of course. Days when I missed the idea of James more than I missed the man himself. Days when I cried in my car because life felt overwhelming and unfair. But there were good days too, more of them than I expected. Like the day I finally returned the last of James's Amazon purchases, the ones he bought for Aurora while using our joint account, and watched the refund hit my balance. Or the night I successfully filed my taxes by myself through TurboTax and treated myself to cheap Chinese takeout to celebrate. Or the afternoon when a little boy in the grocery store randomly told me he liked my happy shirt, and I realized I was happy. Not all the time, not perfectly, but real happiness. Tiny, stubborn pockets of it, growing day by day. Healing wasn't some grand gesture, it wasn't a dramatic moment of closure. It was quiet, messy, ordinary. It was learning how to fix a running toilet at 11 p.m. without calling a man. It was choosing throw pillows that made me smile, not worrying if someone else would approve. It was paying my phone bill, buying my own groceries, setting up my own Netflix account, all things James once insisted I couldn't handle. Turns out I could handle a lot more than I ever gave myself credit for. Turns out I was never the useless one. I was just unfinished. And finally, I was starting to build something messy, something imperfect, but something that was truly, completely mine. 6 months. It's been 6 months since James tossed those divorce papers on the coffee table and told me I'd never survive without him. And you know what? I'm still here, stronger than I ever thought possible. The divorce was finalized last week. No dramatic courtroom battles, no emotional confrontations, just a bland office, a pile of paperwork, and two very different people sitting across a very big table. James showed up late, wearing the same wrinkled Nordstrom dress shirt he used to brag about. He looked smaller, not just physically, smaller like someone who had spent so long living off lies that there was nothing left underneath. I barely recognized him, and maybe that was the saddest part. Meanwhile, I had changed too, but not in the way he feared. Not broken, not bitter, just free. As the lawyer stamped the final documents, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vengeful. I just felt at peace. Afterward, I treated myself to a cheap lunch at a little sandwich shop down the street. No champagne, no dramatic declarations, just a turkey club and a quiet moment to breathe. Later that weekend, while organizing my new place, I stumbled upon an old photo album. Wedding photos, anniversary trips, Christmas mornings we spent pretending to be happy. I almost threw it out, but then I stopped because that girl in the photos, the one smiling so hard her cheeks hurt, the one bending herself into impossible shapes trying to be enough, she deserved better than to be erased. She deserved to be remembered. Not because she failed, but because she survived. And so did I. My life now isn't glamorous. It's not Instagram worthy. It's working a steady customer service job and actually enjoying the stability. It's buying discount plants at Home Depot and celebrating when they don't die. It's making spaghetti for one and singing badly along to the radio while I do it. It's small, it's quiet, and it's mine. James still tries to reach out sometimes. New Instagram accounts, late-night emails, drunk voicemails that swing wildly between blame and regret. I don't answer. I don't even listen anymore. He's not part of my story now. The funny part, the things he said I could never do, manage finances, live alone, fix a leaky faucet, they've become the small victories that build my days. The things he thought would break me only made me stronger. Last week at the bank, the same teller who helped me open my first solo account smiled and said, "You look happier." And she was right, not because I found a new man, not because I won some dramatic revenge, but because I found myself. Because I finally realized that I was never useless, I was never weak, I was simply trusting the wrong person with my light. Now, that light belongs to me. And maybe, just maybe, it's only getting started. If you were me, what would you have done? Would you have fought back? Stayed quiet? Walked away sooner? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Because if there's one thing I've learned through all of this, we heal stronger when we heal together.